everybody, and welcome to Going for Gold, brought to you by the Women's Game. This is our pregame podcast. It's our last one ahead of the U.S. Women's National Team's gold medal match against Brazil this Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I am literally so thrilled for this team as they have gutted through game after game, always finding a way to win. And now here we are, back in the final of a world tournament. And even more thrilling than watching this team compete for a gold medal, I am so happy to be joined by my co-host today and my friend every day, center back extraordinaire, Becky Sauerbrunn.
Sammy, I had a feeling we were going to find ourselves here recording a preview for the U.S. in the gold medal match. One would almost say it was inevitable. I, like you, I'm thrilled for the team. I'm thrilled for the entire soccer community, everyone that's followed and supported the team. And I'm really thrilled that the program is going to be adding another medal, color soon to be decided, to its long history.
Yeah. I know. It's so incredible. Becky, I need to know, only one of us here has a gold medal from the Olympics. You have a gold medal from the 2012 London Olympics. What does it feel like to be a gold medalist?
It's pretty cool. I really can't lie about it. It's kind of hard to put into words, but to even get to say that I'm an Olympian, that's such an honor in itself. And then to get to add gold medalist, I mean, it is awesome. It's like I'm forever part of this community of athletes that can say we competed against the world's best and found ourselves standing the tallest at the end of it. And for me personally, the 2012 Olympics, that was the first major tournament that I won. And I think I've talked to you about this before, where I felt like I was almost cursed. I was just I just was not a winner, because up until that point, I didn't have a tournament win to my name, nothing collegiately, not a national championship. My youth World Cup, we had gotten third. I had no professional championships. And so for me, there's a huge sentimental weight to the 2012 Olympics, because that was the first time that I was I am a winner. I can contribute to this team and be of value.
Well, these U.S. players are hopefully about to have that feeling for themselves. So let's talk about what we saw in the last game against Germany and what we think we'll see in the upcoming final against Brazil. Before we get into it, this podcast is brought to you by our good friends at Allstate, who do so much for the game across the U.S. and to whom we are so appreciative. First things first, Becky, everyone was back healthy for the semifinal, but these players must be getting exhausted. Talk to us about the physical demands of trying to play 6 games in what will be 17 days. What does that feel like on your legs?
Oh, it's a wild schedule for sure. And we've talked about it before. It's if I had to do an analogy, it's like a bucket of water that has a leak in it. And you try to replenish as much as you can into the bucket before each game, but you're always starting with less and less in the bucket. And that's just if you think of the on-field load of it, but then there's so much going on off-field. You have to pack up your bags. I hate packing. And so you're constantly packing up your bags. You're moving to new hotels. You've got the travel. You've got the preview meetings. You've got the game review meetings. If you've picked up a knock somewhere along the way, you're getting treatment. So there's all these kind of obligations off field that also you want to do, but are expending energy.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I think you're right to point out that it's not just physical energy on the field, required from your legs from the running. It's also this all-encompassing mental, emotional, you get an adrenaline rush to play in an Olympic semifinal. This is do or die. It's also an adrenaline rush for your team to score a game-winning goal in extra time, for a listener to come up huge and make a kick save with seconds to go. And getting an adrenaline rush like that, the crash is real. The next day you feel hungover, you didn't sleep well, your body is exhausted, it's harder to focus. And then not helping any of these things, we've played both knockout round games for 120 minutes, which is so much extra time, extra stress. But what I find really reassuring about this US team is that when the going has gotten really tough, we are finding a way to score. Besides the much-deserved fanfare around Naomi Girma, our forwards have been the main topic of conversation this tournament, and rightly so. Each starting forward, Mal Swanson, Trinity Rodman, and Sophia Smith, have 3 goals to their names. They've also turned it on, scored those goals, played really well in the most critical of moments. Trinity Rodman scored in extra time against Japan, and then Sophia Smith, assisted by Mal Swanson, scored in extra time against Germany. So Becky, talk to us about the confidence of this team right now, knowing that we have 3 forwards, not just 1, not just 2, 3, who are stepping up in crunch time when it matters most. Is there a deep belief on this team that we're gonna score the goal we need?
I mean, I certainly feel it. And the way that the tournament has played out, you have to imagine that the team feels it too. And we've played against a bunch of different styles. And no matter the style we've played against, whether it was the low blocks from Australia and Japan, or the more transitional ones from Zambia and Germany, we've found a way to score. And I kind of love that these goals in the Japan quarters and the Germany semis have happened late, because that should give the team even more confidence that if they stay true to themselves, stick to the game plan, they're going to find a way to get the job done.
Exactly. Yeah. The ability to break down myriad styles of defenses speaks to just how talented and intelligent our team is right now. Adjusting game to game is a really incredible accomplishment at this level. But how much of these past two knockout games, the Japan game and the Germany game, how much were they like these beautiful tactical and technical performances, of which like there certainly were moments of, and how much was it just about gutting it out through tired legs and tough opponents?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a coach who put it really well that sometimes you're in a boxing match and then sometimes you're just in a street brawl. And the tactics, I love that. And the tactics may change depending on the situation, but you're still very much in a fight. And that's how I kind of see these two games. Japan was a boxing match and Germany was certainly the street brawl.
What coach told you that?
Mike, our Portland coach at the beginning of this year.
I really, really love that analogy. There's another analogy the U.S. team has been using. Sometimes you're in an ultra marathon, apparently, just fighting against your own body. Did you see this article about this, Becky?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so apparently Emma introduced the team virtually to Courtney Dauwalter, who is an ultra marathoner who talked about pain caves. She described it as like the physical point where you just can't keep going, like your body just can't keep going. This woman is running 100-mile races. So you create these pain caves in your mind and your mind takes over. And Courtney Dauwalter talked about each time she goes into a pain cave, she grows her capacity to handle physical exhaustion. And so Emma showed this to the players, introduced them to this concept. She used this as motivation for the players to say, like, we can continue to dig deep in these moments in extra time. This is just a mental battle. We have the heart, we have the grit, we can do it. And Emma said in this article, she wants the team to suffer. She wants them to go through something really, really hard and to come out on top and to know and to gain that confidence that they can suffer physically. And we did it. Like, we suffered, and I have like chills. I'm like, I want to play for MA so bad, but we did it twice. We won in extra time, and we were willing to just suffer to get the job done. What are your thoughts?
Well, I love that. I love figuring out where you think your limits are, your perceived limits, and then either you finding a way or others helping you find a way to like realize that it's just an arbitrary level. There's so much more to you that you don't even know and haven't even explored. So I really, really love hearing about that. And it kind of reminds me, Sammy, were you on the team when we brought in the Navy SEAL to talk to us kind of about like motivation and team performance? I always find those things so motivating when you hear from other elite athletes or other people that are in like high stress, high performance jobs, and a Navy SEAL like is like the best of the best and does the most important things. And do you also remember we had an improv specialist come in?
I think I was there for that. I think I had someone come to my college team too, but I like love those. I love team bonding activities like that. They're so fun.
Yeah, they're so cool. And I just remember these two very distinctly, and they were both obviously like very opposite tones.
Yeah.
But the underlying message is always the same, that you individually have to be at your best, but that for the group to find success, you have to rely and work with one another to find it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I love that Emma chose this to show the team too. I think it's almost kind of weird how pertinent it is. Like, it's kind of weird that she chose to use an ultramarathoner when we then went into 2 extra time games in the heat and we're exhausted and we're battling through. And to just imagine, like, does Emma know something we don't? Like, I just feel like she has a way of motivating, that I'm really excited to see how it like continues.
Yeah, I mean, that's a genius move on our part. And I would say that the American mentality, like we've always kind of been known for toughness, our mental toughness and our resilience and our like never say die. And so I think it's great to kind of also remind us of that. Like if we had lost it a little bit or lost that edge, like for Emma to bring in someone that's like, no, you have this and you have so much more that you don't even realize. It's a smart move on our part.
I totally agree. I love that. I think we talk about tactics with this US team so much. We're like, we've evolved so much. We have all this talent. Like we're so tactical, so technical, so smart. And I think you're absolutely right to point out we will always have this mentality piece. We will always be the US women's national team. And that isn't to say that we're one thing, that we're just a winning mentality and that's why we win. We can have all of these things, but that mentality piece is such a core and integral part of the team that for Emma to lean into that and to highlight that, I just love it.
Love it. Love it. All right. So we've touched on the mentality of the group. We've also talked about the forwards. We do need to talk about Naomi Girma. I mean, I'm giving her center back love. As a person that has also played that position, like I can see the nuance and the subtlety and the dominance that she's showing, but I would love to hear from you what you're seeing.
Yeah, I agree with everybody in the world who is raving about Naomi Girma right now. I think what's so special about her is that she has it all. Like I often compare her to you. Naomi is obviously her own player. Like I'm not saying that she's the next Becky Sauerbrunn or anything. I'm saying you are so well-rounded. You have so many of these facets to your game, and Naomi is similar. It's like when you think about a center back, they need to have all the tangibles first and foremost. They need to have like good passing range, good at 1v1 defending, good positioning like when they're defending and the other team has the ball, good vision of the field, good awareness of what's going on and where they need to go. They also need to be good physically with speed and strength, and Naomi has all of that. But then they also need to have these like intangibles. Like, do you feel relaxed when they have the ball? Do they have that poise? Do they have that confidence in their decision making? Do they have leadership ability to lead from the back, to organize on set pieces? And Naomi has all of that too. So she's so well-rounded as a player. And then I think for me, why it's so easy to praise and just like see everybody raving about her so much is because she's so well liked. Like she is so universally respected by the other players, by the fans, by the media. She's respected, she's accepted. And it's obvious that she's a natural leader, and it's obvious that she is someone the team is going to turn to and rely on for years to come.
Sammy, I love that you mentioned tangibles and intangibles, and I just want to take a look at some stats about Nay, and this comes from Cameron Nia on X, and these are absurd. Okay, here we go. 120 minutes played, 146 touches, 125 of 132 accurate passes, which is 95% passing accuracy. That is the most in the match, also the most accurate. 2 chances created, 5 passes into the final third, 13 recoveries, 5 clearances, 3 interceptions. So 95% passing accuracy is absurd in this type of match. Like you need to take into account when she's being pressured in our defensive third, her ability to stay composed and connect those passes gives the team the chance to enter the attack in full control of the ball, as opposed to just like lumping a prayer 50-50 long ball that could go either way. The recoveries, the clearances, the interceptions, those are all a testament to great defensive positioning. And then just for fun, let's look at those attacking stats. 2 chances created and 5 passes into the final third. She almost assisted Mal on that one where Berger made a really great save on it, or made Mal move wide to shoot wide.
Yeah.
But what an amazing through ball that she played to Mal. And that's just like the stats. Then you do the eye test and everything you said before about poise and confidence and leadership and just her presence. Like she is a truly, truly special player and a truly special human.
I know. I think something that's so crazy to me is players are so often like praised for their speed. And we never talk about Naomi's speed because she, like, I don't know why, but she's fast.
She is.
And I feel like that, like, physical attribute actually gets overlooked as being important for her because she's so good in all of these other areas. It's not that she doesn't have to use it because, of course, when she's 1v1 with a forward who's also fast, we see how fast she is, and it comes in handy as she is now slide tackling and saving us from having a shot on target. But I just find it so interesting that it's not even listed often as one of the things that makes her good, because there are so many other things that come before that. In terms of Naomi's partner in that backline, we did see Tierna Davidson start against Germany after missing 2 games due to injury, but Tierna subbed off and Emily Sonnet came on at halftime. And I want to have you speak to that a little bit as a center back, Becky, how obviously in a game, in the middle of a game, changes across the backline, especially for a center back, are kind of rare. And do you notice any significant differences in the backline with different personnel moving in and out?
It's not easy to sub on as a defender, especially as a center back. Your success as an individual is determined so much by the entire defensive unit. So attackers can kind of come on and play a little bit more individualistic and like try things, these flicks and things like that. And defenders are entering a song that kind of has already found its beat, and you have to find the rhythm. And if you start doing things a different way, it gets discordant and just kind of starts sounding like crap. So with the substitution in the Germany game, with Sonnet coming on for Tierna, the only difference is Sonnet is a right-footed player playing on the left side, whereas Tierna is a left-footed player playing on the left side. I am also a right-footed player that plays on the left side. So I completely understand how things can change a little bit tactically and technically. Like for Sonnet, I think it's more difficult to bring a ball onto her left side and to play a left-footed ball into seam 2 or seam 3, which is something that Tierna does very effortlessly. But when I watched the game, like Sonnet didn't have to do that. The game didn't call for that. And so if I'm looking at her defensive actions, if I'm looking at her positioning, I thought she did an excellent job.
Yeah, I agree. I think to sub in that situation, and Sonnet has played a lot of minutes this tournament, I agree with you that I feel really safe with her back there. And it is a really hard ask to sub in that position in that moment in time. But she's like holding it down when she's out there. I love seeing her out there. I do want to talk a little bit about our tactics, specifically in that Germany game, and a few things that we liked. So I really liked and have liked all tournament Crystal Dunn getting high on the left side. I think that Crystal is more than capable of pulling that double duty that's being asked of her. So contributing to the attack with penetrating passes, getting numbers forward, and then also getting back on defense, breaking up the opposition's play, helping us regain possession and keep it and move out of there. The game was clearly an exhausting one, and that started to show as the game went on and on. But I thought that Crystal in our attack was really key for us during the meat of this game.
Yeah, I've really appreciated the almost like loyalty to building out with the 3 and then having Crystal a little bit higher. And I think as the tournament has gone on, it has looked even more comfortable building out of that 3 with Crystal higher. So I certainly hope to see it in this Brazil match. This is probably more a principle of play as opposed to a tactic, but I have really appreciated the opposite movements from our attackers. And by opposite movements, I mean that if I have the ball, if I'm looking forward, I want to see someone checking back to me. And then I also want to see people's backs who are running away from me, because that means that they're stretching that line behind. And I think you've seen all tournament Mal, Trin, Soph, sometimes even Rose and Linz driving the line back with their runs, because a back line, like you have to honor the space in behind. Like that's one of the first things you learn as a defender. You always have to protect the space behind you. And so that line will drop and then it opens up space in front of that line, and you always see someone checking back. And sometimes we are successful finding the player checking back. Sometimes we aren't, but it gives the player on the ball so many options. And when I'm looking at this team or when I'm playing, like I know that we're playing well and feel comfortable when the player on the ball feels like they have a lot of options.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way of measuring success and how a game is going is, does that person on the ball look up and have a short option, a long option? How much movement is there going on? Do they have a back option, like a safety? When that person gets isolated and has nowhere to go, like that's a sign like, okay, something is off here.
Yeah, I agree. I totally love the opposite movements. I think though, in cases we're not maybe getting that support underneath the player quick enough. And I think sometimes we rely too much on Mal, Trin, or Soph to have to kind of roll the player and do something very individually, kind of astonishing to open up the play again.
I think that's a really interesting point, and I agree with you. The play in Seam 2 is so critical. And again, Seam 2, sometimes we call it the pocket. It's the space in between the opposition's back line and midfield. So think Rose Lavelle. Like Rose is usually really key for us in occupying and taking advantage of this space. She's the midfielder who most often and most dangerously gets the ball in seam two or in the pocket and then is dribbling at the opponent's back line. Mal Swanson does this really well too, and it's actually what happened on the goal we scored against Germany. Mal was able to find the ball in that space in seam two, and then she turned and played Sophia Smith in behind for our goal. But I'm a midfielder who played in seam two, so like I want this to happen more. I think you're unlocking defenses when you have players like Rose in seam two with the ball at her feet faced up. So I feel like what that says to me is it might be our midfield positioning. We might need to improve that or stay a little bit more disciplined in staying in that pocket. But it also, to your point, Becky, might be more opposite movement from that front group, more stretching, more checking back, more interchange. I'd love to, in the Brazil game, ask a whole bunch of questions of Brazil's back line because I think they have a tendency to get a little bit disorganized, especially if there's that kind of interchange and movement. Can we force these Brazilian defenders to step out of position, create gaps for our forwards to run into, and then have our forwards, our 1v1 specialists, our goal scoring machines be isolated on a disjointed back line?
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's playing against a team that can do that is very difficult because if you're stepping out of space, you better be dang sure you're interrupting the play or that is going right behind you into some dangerous territory. And that's actually what I really admired about Germany's tactics in the game against us. I thought they did really well finding the highest available player who was usually back to goal. And then that player would set the ball back to a player facing forward who's now in those pockets between our lines like you're talking about. And I think it caused us some real problems because it's asking our midfielders to cover a lot of ground.
Yes, and I have to bring up our midfield. Our midfield has not really been the strongest point of our team this tournament. And I really struggle to criticize them, Becky, because I'm just so familiar with the demands of the position. And so I admit that, yes, of course, I see mistakes, I see giveaways, but I also see all the good things that these midfielders are doing. Like I see Sam Coffey's composure on the ball. She's keeping it in critical moments, winning it back, and then connecting that first pass. And I know how important that is. I see Lindsey Horan following up shots on goal. Like when Trinity scored that goal against Japan, who was there waiting for a rebound? It was Lindsey Horan. She's running God only knows how many meters from she's on the left sideline, then she's on the right sideline, then she's on our end line, then she's on the other end line. She's just doing so much work. And so as a midfielder, like it pains me to see the midfield be so heavily criticized, but I would be remiss to say that our midfield performance so far this tournament has been top quality. Against Germany, I felt like we let a lot through our midfield defensively. And I think maybe that has a lot to do with what you just mentioned, Becky. Germany was finding that really high forward and laying it back. And it just causes our midfield to almost get in like a spin cycle. So I want to know your thoughts on the midfield so far this tournament. Have we had kind of a lack of dominance in the midfield that we're used to seeing?
So defensively, we're defending in a flat 4-4-2. And you can see, especially in the Germany game, that Rose moves out to the left to deal with Germany's outside back. Then you have Linz and Sam flatten out in the central area. And then Trin comes down from her more attacking position down lower onto the right side. Yeah. And the danger with a flat midfield is that one quality line breaking ball takes away the entire line. Mm-hmm. And Germany was very good at this. They often found the player who was beyond our midfield line. Then you're asking those midfielders to do a lot of negative running. And negative running is basically when you're turning and having to chase down a player, or you're turning and having to get yourself into a good defensive position for a potential cross. And that is not a fun thing to have to do, to be chasing. And I think that can get you exhausted, especially if you're going into 6 games in a tournament. Like the negative running is usually the most difficult running to do because it's also mental as much as physical. And I also think, Sammy, that it's okay to be outshone this tournament because you do have an attacking line and a defensive line that are just having like a really stellar tournament.
Yeah, that is true. I think to be the not strongest line when you have literally the what do we call the front three again?
The Triforce.
when you have the Triforce in front of you and then Naomi, Girma, and Co behind you, it's like, okay, yeah, like this is a tough one. I have a lot of faith in this midfield and a lot of confidence. So luckily, soccer is a team sport and we're in this one together, just like podcasting, Reba.
Let's get into this Brazilian team a little bit. Brazil's tournament has been interesting, I'd say. They beat Nigeria 1-0 in their first game, then lost Japan 2-1 in their second game, despite playing with a lead until the 91st minute. Ouch. Their group stage game against Spain was devastating. Not only did they lose 2-0, but they lost Marta to a straight red card that resulted in not one, but 2 additional games as suspension. So they really had to hold their breath. They had 3 points out of the group, I think a -2 goal differential. So their fate was really not in their hands, but they eked on by, got third out of the group, and then played France in the first knockout round. They beat the hosts, which I always think is like a very difficult thing to do. There's a lot of energy, a lot of emotion in those games. And Gabby Portillo scored a wonderful goal on a through ball by Adriana, putting them up 1-0 and really kind of starting this wonderful run that they've been on. Even without Marta, they went on to beat defending World Cup champions and tournament favorite Spain 4-2.
I know. It's like, I don't know what to make of them because they had such a weird group stage and now they're like on this ascendance up, beating France, beating Spain. I feel like this Brazil team are kind of like fireworks. So hear me out. Either everything is popping off all at once. There's beautiful colors in the sky. Everybody's oohing and eyeing and it's just so great. It's such a celebration. Or they're like flying in a million different directions and things are getting unsafe. Like everybody hide your kids. So with that kind of like unpredictability, like obviously Brazil is an incredible team who can do beautiful things. The way they played against Spain, I cannot get over their attack, their wave after wave of attack. But I do feel a little bit surprised that they've made it all the way to the final. I don't necessarily think that they've been particularly organized. I think they give up a lot of chances, but it goes without saying that they have played with such heart and passion. So Becky, I have a question for you. Would you rather win a knockout game 1-0 like the US did over Germany, or 4-2 in like a chaos adrenaline fest like Brazil won over Spain?
Oh, that's a tough one because I take a lot of pride in shutouts, but I also really enjoy having a little bit of cushion in the scoreline because you never want to leave a game up to chance. And it could be a bad bounce of the ball or a bad call by the ref that goes another team's way. Like even if you've played such a solid game, and if you look at the Germany game, I mean, Alyssa had to make a jumping toe-saving clearance in the dying seconds of overtime in order to like get the shutout. Like you don't want to leave games to that moment.
Yeah, that's actually so true. I like really took you as a 1-0 person, Becky. You surprise me a little bit each and every single day that we're together. But what's so interesting about Brazil's team is the difficulty that they faced with their roster. So Marta, their like North Star. Marta has been on this team for like 20 years. She's their leader. Like a lot of these girls idolized her growing up. Marta was suspended for the quarterfinal and the semifinal. And then they've had some serious injury woes. Tamirez is done for the Olympics with a right ankle ligament injury. Raffaele was out of the Spain game with thigh discomfort. And Antonia didn't play against France or Spain due to injury. So what this has done, I think seeing some of these players unavailable, it's actually paved the way for some younger players like 23-year-old Duda and some original alternates like Priscilla and Angelina to step up and play a real role in this tournament. Priscilla is the player whose pressure forced that first own goal against Spain. And then she like kind of got in Catacol's face a little bit. And it was kind of like, oh my God.
Yeah, she did.
What's happening here? Like, who is this team? And then Angelina, who we know really well from the NWSL, has played in 3 games starting 2. And I feel like Brazil has almost found more purpose in the changes they've been forced to make than they found in the group stage with their like planned starters.
Yeah, I think I love seeing that because you want these players to get experience and you want them to be hungry and want to show the world what they can do. And someone that's really stood out to me is Ludmilla. And she looked super fast in that Spain game, charging up the right, causing just a ton of problems for the Spanish back line. And they honestly kind of looked a little shell-shocked to be challenged so boldly by Brazil. And what's awesome is that Ludmilla just signed with Chicago, so we'll be seeing lots more of her in the NWSL.
Another Brazilian player that's having a great Olympics is Gabi Portillo, the forward who scored against both France and Spain. She plays her club football for Corinthians, and she's started 3 games at this tournament so far for Brazil. Her goals, like what I think stands out to me the most about her is that her goals have come at really clutch moments. And similar to us, a forward that's in form and feeling confident is always a threat that you want to be aware of.
Interestingly, the only player who has started all 5 matches for Brazil so far has been the goalkeeper, Lorena, who is our Allstate player to watch this game because she is going to need to have herself a day against the U.S. and against our forwards. She actually saved 2 penalty kicks so far this tournament and came up huge multiple times in the Spain game. So with a backline, like you said, Sammy, that gives up a lot of chances, Lorena could be the player who makes all the difference for Brazil.
I know. I'm really excited to see Lorena in goal for Brazil. Another player who could make all the difference for Brazil is Marta. She's been watching from the sideline for the past 2 games, having received a red card, like we said, in the 3rd group stage match that saw her suspended for 2 games.
Here's the question, Sam.
Yeah.
Given Brazil's performances without Marta, do you think she slots back into the starting lineup for the final?
Yes. Like, I cannot imagine a world where she doesn't start the final. This is her farewell game from the Brazilian national team. This is her chance to retire as an Olympic gold medalist. The role that she plays on this team, I just can't imagine not starting her. What do you think?
I don't know. Why, like a part of me is saying, why mess with something that's working? They've played their way into a gold medal match without her. They beat Spain, for goodness sake, 4-2. But like you said, it is her last Olympic match. So do you honor that and honor her and everything that she's done for the Brazilian program, for women's soccer, for soccer in general? So I don't know. And I'm like so intrigued by what this coach is going to decide to do.
That's an interesting take. I mean, oh my gosh, I can't imagine. I think the thing that Brazil has working for them is like the passion and the spirit to win and to fight and to do it together. And who better to play for than Marta? That's why I feel like you just need her on the field. She's also obviously an incredible and world-class player. Yes, Brazil has come together in her absence, but I just think if there's anybody to rally around and anybody who would have the performance of their lifetime in this game, it would be Marta. But one other aspect of this game that I wanted to note was actually more about the way that Germany was playing against us. I felt like Germany had this advantage where they were like so physical and so aggressive against us. And I'm wondering if Brazil will have picked up on that because I think Brazil kind of did something similar against Spain where they just went in really hard. I think it did throw us off a little in the Germany game. We're like facing exhaustion. We're being hit with really hard tackles. It kind of started to disrupt our play. And so if I were Brazil, I feel like I would look to do that again against the US and try and not like do anything dirty, but just use a little bit of gamesmanship.
Well, Brazil is going to have absolutely no problem with that. If ever there were a team to use gamemanship, it is Brazil. And I think being physical and aggressive has always been a core identity for Brazil. They gave Spain such little room to work their magic in that semifinal. And on the flip side, they know how to draw fouls. They know how to work the ref, and their quality on the ball when it comes to services, like getting fouls in good areas, that scares me because they have real quality on their set pieces.
That's actually a really good point. I was rewatching highlights from that Gold Cup final game that we played against them earlier this year where we won 1-0 on a Lindsey Horan header. It was like a deep cross from Emily Fox came in from the right-hand side and Lindsey Horan was back post and she scored with her head. But what stood out to me in the highlights of that game, Brazil was really good that game. Like they actually outshot us 11-7. They may have had an edge on possession. They had some potentially dangerous attacks, including those set pieces that you just mentioned. They were really confident on the ball. They had flair and kind of the bite that we associate with Brazilian teams. But I will say the US team that was playing in that Gold Cup final, we won, but we're a different team now. Like we look a lot different than we looked then.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think a lot of things have been phased into this American team. And then, of course, you have Emma taking over and adding her mentality to the group as well. So it is going to be very interesting.
Let's talk about the bronze medal match between Spain and Germany. So this game is on the day before the gold medal match. So it's on Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. I'm just surprised that Spain are in this game, Becky.
Mm-hmm.
They were one of my favorites coming into this tournament. Of course, they're World Cup defending champions. But I think I don't want to get carried away and being like so let down by them. Like, it is their first Olympics and they could get a bronze medal. That's still a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, and I think we've always talked about how the winner of the World Cup rarely, if ever, wins that following Olympics. I know we were trying to do that with 19 going into Tokyo Olympics and we were unsuccessful, and now Spain. Like, it's a very difficult thing to do. So, like, knowing all that with Spain, Are you disappointed in them?
I feel like it's just so hard to say. I'm a little disappointed in this idea. Like, I thought they looked kind of surprised by how bad Brazil wanted to win. Like, I think that I don't want to like accuse them of being complacent, but it almost was like they expected it to just happen for them because they're Spain and because they're so good. And I don't want to just assume that, but I'm interested in why. Like, Spain is a top footballing team. They play the most beautiful football, and they showed incredible resilience against Colombia to fight back from being down 2-0 the game before the Brazil game. So I think I'm just struggling to like decide how disappointed to be. Did they get a little bit complacent after last summer's victory? Did the players enjoy being the best a little bit too much that they just assumed they would win and assumed that they would just be the best? Or is this tournament just proof how thin the margins are in women's international football, and that the idea of winning back-to-back world tournaments is like asking someone to climb Mount Everest and then run back down and then climb Mount Everest again? So I know what I saw on the field, and I don't want to get too carried away with my disappointment in that what I saw a little bit of like they just thought it was going to happen for them, and that Brazil charging at them kind of caught them off guard. But it's also a huge ask to win an Olympics right after winning a World Cup. So I'm just a little bit unsure how to think about this one.
For sure. And watching the game, Spain seemed to really struggle with the skillfulness and physicality of Brazil. And it was an interesting way to start a game. And maybe interesting is not the right word. Maybe I should say terrible, because to have that own goal happen, and it was so fluky. And so you're starting the game off so early, already down a goal.
Yeah.
And so you have to open yourself up more. Like, your game plan basically just completely changes. And so you're opening yourself up more to take more chances going forward. And Brazil just completely capitalized on that. I mean, you were talking about the waves of attack. And I think that this game could be a real knock to their collective confidence after they've had a pretty glorious run of games since before even winning the 2023 World Cup. So I see Germany as this team that's almost like battle hardened. Historically, they've almost always made the semis or the finals, or, getting third in these third place matches. And so they're like, we've been here before, for better or worse. And I feel like that might give Germany the edge.
That is a really interesting take. I didn't really think of that Spain might kind of take this more to heart than Germany. I think, like, when I think about that, it's like, I remember losing the semifinal to Canada in 2021. And I was so devastated, Becky. Like, the next day at practice, I had to like go on a walk afterwards because I was sobbing. Like, I almost was just like, F it, I don't care. I don't want a bronze. But you all, the veteran players, obviously quickly corrected my attitude. And I'm very grateful that we turned it around and we competed in that bronze medal game. But I wanted you to talk a little bit about that, Becky, about the importance of like turning around your devastation and fighting for a medal at the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that the team that can use the disappointment of losing the semifinal to help fuel them for the bronze medal game is going to win. And in Tokyo, I think you remember this, we came together as players and had a meeting before our bronze medal game. And like you, like, a lot of players were really affected by us losing that semi against Canada. And the way that it happened with a penalty, it was just felt like it felt tragic. And in a lot
It
of
was so tragic.
And I think in a lot of minds, it really was like gold or bust. So I'm really proud of us because we only had 2 days to basically work through that loss of disappointment and then shift our mindset that a bronze medal is still pretty freaking amazing. And even like little things like finding the humor and joy in also competing in another chance to play a game together, even like joking about the medal not being bronze but like rose gold, like
Yeah.
we really could have left that tournament with nothing. And when I look back at Tokyo, like I'm still so proud of us that we worked through that and found our way to being motivated and playing a damn good match against Australia to get that bronze medal.
Yeah, that was a freaking hard game, and we worked our little butts off to get that rose gold medal. I still cherish it so much. I'm really excited to watch the bronze medal match and see who can, like you said, Becky, turn that competitiveness back on after being so devastated and then celebrate on the medal stand. I think that's another weird part of the Olympics. Like in our moment when we got our medals at the final, we were like happier than Sweden, even though they got silver, because we had won our last game. So we like ended on a positive and they had lost the final. So that's like another kind of weird moment, like that moment you get your medals and third place is celebrating and second place is crying. It's like, it's like so bizarre. But okay, Becky, we need to switch gears. So we're putting together a women's game team of the tournament. It's going to drop sometime this weekend on our YouTube channel. And I'm not going to ask you for a whole team. That would take hours. But I would love a couple of players who come to mind when you think about a team of the tournament. Like, who are a couple players you think have had a standout tournament from any team you like?
Okay, well, I'm going to start with the U.S. first, and I have to put Naomi Girma in there. And I can't choose between Mal, Trin, and Soph.
I know.
So like, maybe can I just put like the Triforce as one spot?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Okay, so I think you mentioned Gabby Portillo from Brazil.
Yeah.
I'm going to add Ann-Katrin Berger from Germany because I think she had a very strong tournament. Barbara Banda from Zambia. And then I'm also going to go with Marie Antoinette Katoto from France.
Super interesting list. I think they would all make my initial list as well. I have a couple questions for you. Would you put Ann-Katrin Berger instead of Alyssa?
Oh, I feel like I can't put in too many Americans because of course I would do that.
I know. That's what's tough. The women's game is an American outlet.
Yeah.
What do you guys want from us?
I feel like Alyssa knows, if she were to ever listen to this podcast, how much I love her and will put her first in absolutely everything. And so I think she'll give me a break on this one.
Yeah, maybe she will. Maybe she will. One other question. Barbara Banda is also on my initial list. I want to know, can Barbara Banda make team of the tournament, having not won any games with Zambia and only playing in 3? She did score 4 goals. Does she belong on there?
I mean, is 4 goals, doesn't that put her up pretty high in the potential Golden Boot race?
Pretty high. She's not going to win. Marie Antoinette Katoto has 5. And who knows? Triforce could end up with frickin' 19.
So true. So true. I mean, when I'm looking at a team of the tournament, like the players that really have a presence and really make the difference in some matches. I know that Zambia didn't have the tournament that they were hoping for, but I feel like Barbara's such a force to be reckoned with that you have to appreciate what she does.
I totally agree. The thing I will say is that I don't think we can choose team of the tournament until we've seen the bronze medal game and the final, because I think, to your point, we do have to choose between Triforce and who has the best game in the final. Maybe the players who get put on that very, very prestigious, the women's game team of the tournament roster. So
you basically just set me up to fail. You wanted some names. Do you have any names to add to this list?
Julia Gavin from Germany, I think, was a really, really standout player for Germany. She had a couple of assists. She scored a goal. I think she was great against us. Eula Brand from Germany was also great against us. I think she caused us a lot of trouble around our back line. From the US, Obviously, Naomi. I'm probably going Alyssa. I want to really see some, performances in that final that are really going to convince me. You know what I mean?
All right, fine. Okay, Sam, to close this whole sucker out, what have been some of your favorite moments from the women's game coverage?
Oh my gosh, we have had such an incredible time, Becky. I'm so glad that we had Christy on. It was so much fun to talk to her and to just mess around with my sis on the show. One of my favorite moments was Midge's Fashion Minute when Midge surprised me with just a fashion analysis of the U.S. women's national team, and I had no idea it was coming, and it was such an incredible segment. I loved Georgia Stanway agreeing to give me a tattoo. I feel like I have to do that now. Brandy Chastain graced us with her presence. Viv Miedema came on the day that she was moving to Manchester and having to go into the club for the first time, the day before preseason started. It was so generous of her. Doing these with you, writing these together, being here laughing. It's been so much fun and so rewarding. And then hearing from so many listeners on the Do It Lives has been really, really incredible. I love that people love what we're doing. I love that people get on and listen and call in and they have questions to ask. I've gotten to drink so many Ollipops. That's really been the best part of this whole thing. And the whole team at the women's game behind the scenes coming together to pull off some really great coverage. Everybody has been working so hard, and I'm really, really proud of what we've done here. It's been awesome.
I mean, as you should be, Sam. I am honored to have been just a very small part of it.
Oh, thank you, Becky. It's so fun having you here. I just love doing these with you.
Okay, so for one last time, what is your prediction for the gold medal game?
I think it's going to be really exciting, really wide open. I think we're going to win 3-1.
Okay. I'm close to that. I think we're going to win 2-1.
Okay, I'll take it. So we're going to be gold medalists, knock on wood.
Yep.
For the bronze medal match, you kind of convinced me a little bit, but I think I'm still going to go 2-1 Spain over Germany.
Okay. I'm giving Germany on this one. I'm going to do 2-1 Germany over Spain.
Okay, well, we will find out this weekend. I'm very, very excited. Thank you all so much for being here with us throughout all of these pregame podcasts. We will be back after the gold medal match live at the final whistle with Becky Sauerbrunn. Again, I am so excited that she's joining me. Make sure you're subscribed to this podcast feed or to this YouTube channel. We will have so much more coverage coming your way after the Olympics. So follow along with us on social media at Women's Game MIB on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Threads. You can also send me an email at womensgamemib@menandblazers.com. Thank you all so much for being here. We will see you after the game on Saturday.